Well, Grant, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Grant Blaisdell. I'm an entrepreneur and co-founder of ventures in the tech space. Some of them include ones like CoinFirm, which is one of the global leaders in analytics for crypto. But I'm also third generation aerospace and am the co-founder and CEO of Copernic Space, which is a platform that enables access to space assets, whether that's payload space to tokens related to actual space companies and ventures.
And I mean, I was looking at the Lady Rocket Foundation, which I
Sure.
know is uh, you're related to, um,
Yeah.
and the whole Rhino coin idea about being able to have NFTs around kind of uh, endangered animals in order to further fund protecting those animals.
Yeah. Thanks for highlighting that. That's an initiative that we've been working on with our space partners, companies that are partnered with Copernic Space or Lady Rocket Foundation, as well as Saving the Survivors, which is one kind of premier leading on the ground organizations and groups that actively goes and helps fight against poachers and provide medical care to endangered animals in South Africa specifically. And this is kind of one of these things that highlights, when I say enabling access to space assets, et cetera, or democratizing access to space, is we want to really engage and show how putting a bigger focus on space applications for on Earth and humanitarian aspects is incredibly effective and real. There's a little disconnect between the general public when it comes to understanding how space technology and things are actually applied and how big of a difference it actually does make to mankind on Earth every day. So that's maybe you caught the news a week or two ago also, where with Exodus, because this is like a stage, so we're using, it comes in a few stages, so we're using NFTs in this kind of initial way to get out there, awareness out there, and kind of an alternative financing model for initiatives like this. But we're also applying NFTs in a different way through Copernic Space, which is allowing organizations like Saving the Survivors to easily access by a license, in this case to Exodus Orbitals, which would allow them to request and receive satellite imagery that they need when they need it. Right. And this is done through, a very e-commerce friendly sort of process on the Copernic Space platform. And, we're working with our partners and in this case, Exodus Orbitals, to further build on these capabilities so that Saving the Survivors very soon can be using things like that effectively.
And could you tell me a little bit more about Saving the Survivors?
Well, I don't want to speak to them, but they're very known at what they do. I was actually on the call with them about 2 days ago about this case and trying to move it forward. But they're, like I said, they're very on the ground, so that means that they're actively on the ground, observing, looking uh, at how these, whether it's rhinos, they also do stuff around elephants, are moving, medical needs that they have in emergency situations. So if poachers get to them, let's say, chop off, the top, like they try to rush there and save them. So what we're really looking to do is provide not just consistency in satellite data and imagery for them, but stuff that is as live and as actionable as possible at a certain point. So like I said, it's going in stages, and we're working up so that it's a really effective thing to be used not just by them, but we view it as, if we prove this case, it opens up that whole vertical, across the world of those applications, because people see it and understand how to do it, and our whole thing is to enable that and facilitate it.
It sounds really neat. I know that NFTs and crypto is like very has been very popular for a while. Um, some of it seems really futuristic, and some of it seems, how to say, people just riding the wave. I was just
Yeah,
wondering.
most of it's crap. Most of it's crap, and that's okay to say. You know, it's just like when the internet came out, you know, you had all these dot coms and loads of them were worth money, but really they were crap, right? They had no inherent real value. You know, what you're seeing right now is like early stage, for the most part, early stage applications. So you see the art and all that stuff happening. And that's gonna stay, right? In some form. You know, that's creating a new standard of how digital value, unique value is monetized or sold, whatever it may be. But you know, for example, that's something that we did with like the Satellite Rhino initiative. So that's more of this alternative kind of financing for this initiatives. But like I said earlier, we use in Copernic Space, it's mainly used for licensing and rights. So what you're going to see really long term is NFTs are going to be a core function of the digital economy. It's just most people are going to be using them and not knowing it. So just like when you buy a license from Exodus Orbitals, you're actually getting an NFT, right? And that provides you unique access on those exact rights and terms to that, in this case, API or user interface that allows you to interact with the satellite application, right? So you know, it's something that, you know, when there's hype, there's going to be, you know, that grain of truth that it's like, okay, a lot of this is just don't pay attention. But the core function and what it's going to be doing is going to be here for a long time, and is going to be very important in the space economy.
Yeah, I know like Rick Tomlinson's company. Oh, I've the name just escaped me, but they published articles saying that the future is tokenized. You know, talking about space investment
Yeah,
and
his fund
the space fund.
actually offers token the to LPs in the fund. To some of them, they offer tokenized securities, actually. And I was on a panel with Megan, who's his partner in the fund, saying space will be tokenized. So we did that actually a few months ago with them. So we view ourselves as the economic operating system for space, and what we're doing is we're tokenizing space assets and allowing them to be commercialized in entirely new ways and entirely new scale to entirely larger and new segment of the global market. And also the other half of the platform applies tokenization to allow for public financing of space ventures. So within the next year, you know, for you, the most exciting thing that we're doing is within about 4 months, we're going to do the first tokenized public sale of payload space, right? And that's on a rover that's going to the moon next year. Um, and we're going to also allow for divisibility and resellability of that payload space. So we're going to create the first secondary market for space assets ever. So let's say you buy like a kilo, what you're actually getting is NFT with associated rights for you and that kilo of payload space. But you can chop, let's say, 100 grams off of that kilo. It creates a new NFT that you can then resell, and you can put revenue shares all the way to, you know, the original rover company for all these resales. So that's what I mean by like it's kind of this backbone of the digital economy coming up, where loads of these processes are filled with unnecessary middlemen and administrative processes that can be totally taken care of. Um, and yeah, and actually the cool thing is that's like the first stage of that rover thing. When the rover lands on the moon, we're going to allow for rover ride sharing. So, you know, we're working with Exodus Orbitals on satellite ride sharing. And in this case, we're going to do rover ride sharing. But we hope that within about 6 months after that, we'll be able to offer the first public kind of sales of space companies in tokenized format, so that space companies can get investment from the public as opposed to be forced into the very limited financing avenues they have currently.
And I guess that rover is being launched on the Astrobotic mission. Is that the
It's
one?
it's on a SpaceX rocket, I believe. I don't know exactly which mission it is. I'm
Okay.
very focused on you know, executing the product and the case right now for it. And you know, we want to do really cool stuff. Like, of course, it's great to sell some of the payload space to companies that are going to use it more traditionally in a functional way, you know, put something in there to measure something, etc. But our whole thing is, once again, to really open up the space economy to the global market and the general public as well. And we want to allow loads of companies or brands, for example, to make history and make space a little bit more engaging in those things. So, you know, think putting the first cell phone on the moon, etc. I mean, really, the possibilities are endless to what we're exploring and what we're going to do with the rover company when it comes to this payload space. And we got a bunch of other really, really cool ones. I'm happy to talk about, in the future with you.
It sounds really exciting. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what's going to be happening this decade in terms of space.
Yeah, I got what's fascinating for me is this kind of convergence of actually the crypto and blockchain elements and space, because space is unique in it is already a massive market. It's only going to grow in a insane rate, as what you're alluding to, and that's mainly going to be driven by private commercial activity, and new investors and new liquidity type providers for these space companies. um, so but it doesn't have the 100 years of legal, regulatory, blah blah blah, bureaucratic stuff behind it that almost every other major market or industry has. So it's actually really uniquely positioned to build this new space economy on a new kind of economic operating system as opposed to the last one. And that's why it really uniquely allows for crypto and blockchain rails to come in and create a much more open, trusted, and democratized system. Because I don't think we want the space economy to go in the way of other markets, to where it's a very small, let's say, class or list of people who are generally benefiting off of it. Whereas I think the space economy has the unique capability to provide benefits on a scale we've never seen. And in reality, it kind of objectively is the only market or economy ever that has the potential to be limitless in mankind's history, let's say. Sorry, one sec. My baby's waking up over here. One moment.
No worries.
Interviews and things.
That's so cute. Hi. It's like too
She
early
just
in the
woke up.
morning.
Yeah, she's not handling it. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop the interview. We could have kept going.
Oh, okay. Well, when did you first hear about our plans to go back to the moon in 2024?
That happened. I can't tell you, to be honest. I've been, pretty actively around the space economy for about, 10 years. Like I said, I'm third generation around this. I can't tell you, to be honest. I can't tell you.
Would you
Do
believe?
you know?
Well, I know at the National
No.
Space Council in like February of 2019 is like when I think it was officially announced, something around that time.
Um, yeah, I guess it would have been last year probably that it really sat in my head around that. I'm extremely focused on like these particular cases and really streamlining and opening up loads of these economic processes around space. So for me, like, my focus is less like, okay, when are we going to Mars, but more so empowering and facilitating the commercial and financial capabilities for the entrepreneurs or the companies who are going to solve the problems to get there, right? Like, I'm not the guy who's going to solve that problem, but I am a guy who can help create a system or an environment that will empower the guys who are smart enough to do that, who are smarter than me, right?
And know that it's all about getting people working together and giving them the resources they need and
Well, the
keeping
space
them
economy
motivated.
is weirdly not very collaborative, actually. The newer guys, the young guys, guys more in our ilk, they're like that. Um, the the older kind of guard guys they're way more protective, and it's because people take things, and space is very specific. So I've learned a crazy amount even in the past year since I started this venture, like formally started it. Um, so it's interesting, and that's what I mean by making space more accessible. Like, space is made to be super intimidating. Like, you got to be a rocket scientist to do anything in it. And the whole thing that is like, nah, this new space economy is going to need every single type of person that you could think of, from PR to whatever it may be. So, and people such as yourself who do really cool initiatives and try to put it out there, a little bit more. So once again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to cut off the interview like that. You know, I'm happy to continue it or finish it in a way that allows you to use it the way you want.
Oh no, this is perfect if you're okay with it.
Yeah, I'm totally fine.
Yeah. Um, uh, let's see. The other thing I was want to say is, do you think you'll have the opportunity to travel into space?
Me personally, yeah, I think I'll get myself in the position to do that. I battle with that question actually relatively often whether I'd want to do it. To like
Did
what level, you know? Like to what level? Like to the Branson let me go in a plane type of thingy and do it? Yeah, okay. But like I got one kidney too, so like any sort of long exposure in space is probably not best for my long-term health, you know. So these are, you know, although I'm invested, you know, I've invested a good portion and I'm going to invest, you know, my whole life pretty much in the space. I try to be a realist about it as well, and you know, we haven't figured out a lot of things when it comes to how the human body can handle it for any extended period of time or in certain circumstances. So, uh, to answer your question in long form, yeah, I think I'll do that, but I'll do it in a very chill way. Like you know, like we're friends with Zero to Infinity who do space balloons, right? So like we're exploring doing like the first concert in space, right? So like those things are a little bit different than you know getting in, going out there, right?
Yeah, that would be pretty neat. I mean, do you think your daughter would get a chance to go to space?
Yeah, it's funny. As my mother's name is, you know, nickname is Lady Rocket, and she's, you know, from day one, she's like, oh, she's gonna be, you know, an astronaut, not like in a literal thing, but you know, in kind of that sort of way. So yeah, my guess is that she will. My
Uh,
guess is that she will, and especially her generation, you know, is going to be. It's already going to be in the tourism, area. And like that tourism stuff is really close by. We work with a bunch of companies that are, you know, and you know, involved in that, and that tourism stuff is coming like fast. So yeah, she's for sure going to be doing it, and who knows, maybe she'll even be at a place where it's like, you know, where even, you know, transportation on Earth, long distance is, you know, a is almost a space trip. Let's say we'll see. Who knows? You know, things accelerate right now at a crazy pace technologically. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I kind of envision this as being a time capsule for future generations to look back on this moment when you have like the optimists and the pessimists, the skeptics and the hopefuls, kind of both have evidence to support their side. But then, once space becomes like everyday thing, we'll no longer be wondering what's possible. It just happen.
Well, you know, the only thing that's going to stop it is some massive societal, you know, cultural collapse, which isn't out of the question totally, but is really the only thing that's going to stop that. And there's too much incentive and you know, geopolitical stuff going towards it for it to not, you know, continue moving at that pace. I mean, this could be our horse and, you know, the horse and buggy and car moment in a certain way, right? So um, you know, people don't appreciate history and human nature and how much it just kind of cycles and we repeat it and stuff. I think a bit. So um, you know, it's just like I've been involved in the crypto space since 2012, 13. You know, I people still call it crazy, but I remember when people thought, you know, when we started Coin Firm was like doing anti-money laundering regulatory technology for crypto. It's like, you're insane. What are you talking about? So I'm used to being in that position, and with Copernic Space, we're very much in that position. But people's minds, you know, the psychology is changing really quick, and you know, now I've had companies not in space, in the financial space, and journalists, you know, call me or email me and go, hey, tell me about space assets, right? What are space assets? So, you know, it's like, you know, if you see some of our materials, what we want to bring is e-commerce and kind of DeFi, you know, decentralized finance to the space economy, right? So that's space assets in that sense. So it's going to be fascinating, man. I'm like, the space economy is so broad. There's so much that can be done, and we just want to help facilitate all that.
Well, that is really awesome. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you reaching out, man.
And anyway, I hope you have a good rest of your day, unless you had something else you wanted to add.
Uh, no, I just want to thank you once again, and I what we look forward to is that within the next year or so that will help enable the average person to be able to own a piece of space and invest in the space companies and help build their own future in a certain sort of way. So I'm just happy to get a voice and a platform to share that. And anybody watching, listening, go to copernicspace.com, sign up for our waiting lists, so that when we formally launch outside of our kind of private commercial cases, then we'll hit you up and we'll bring you on as one of the first, what we call astronauts on the Copernic space platform. So thanks once again, Nathan.
I really appreciate that, Grant. Sounds good. I'll go actually do that now.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and on social media, it's at Copernic Space, pretty much on every platform that can be found. So we do really cool stuff, and we have a different approach towards communicating and doing initiatives around space, as you mentioned, with like Satellite Rhino. So happy to get anybody's support, and thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you again. You have a good rest of your day.
Appreciate it, buddy.